what I'm saying is the bike was the place that I went that all that disappeared. All the noise stopped, and I just got lost in it. And I'm glad I kept going, because in that next year, like, being able to dive into riding that way, like, really helped me. I never wanted to stop. I can see why my family might have wanted to. There's two things that pop up on my Instagram feed all the time, and one of them is the goon riding video from early on, and the other one is the battle with Stu. I can honestly say that was one of the funnest races I ever raced. We battled hard. The second moto we battled, but the first moto, it was like...
It was on.
It was on.
Gypsy.
Look at the resurgence that James has had. I mean, he was gone. Like, he was completely... I'd love to go back and find the podcast where I said it, but I literally said, I was like, he is 100% coming back. He'll be back and in it. But what a loss for the sport if that dude doesn't come back the way that he does. You know, like, look at what he's added in the last couple of years that he's decided to really come back. It's like, dude, if he went and like stayed gone, huge loss, massive loss to the sport, you know?
Yeah. Oh, 100%, man. And like, you know, I was on the line with James when people would yell some pretty gnarly stuff, you know, like made me uncomfortable, made me want to like put my bike down and be like, what are you thinking, you know? So I can see why I wanted to disappear, you know, like, to hear nonsense like people said around him. So I applaud him for coming back. And like, to your point, like, it's a major loss to lose these guys, you know, that added so much to the sport. Like, I mean, K-Dub, like, dude. I am such a huge K-Dub fan. Like, just not just as a rider, but as a person. Like, he's always been so good to me as a person. But I miss seeing him around, you know, like is still involved in some way, but I don't know, like he's such a great personality. I shouldn't talk about this stuff because I don't have the answer, but how do we get, you know, that type of guy like to stay, you know?
Yeah. And I just think that the landscape is evolving in a way, you know, like I definitely think it's going in the right direction. Like you got Bubba's World, you've got, you know, Plugged In, Adam's Deal, you know, Christian Craig just started his own thing. I definitely think that there's like a limit of riders that can like start podcasts, you know, like, I don't think it's like, that's just the answer, but I think that there's new lanes that, you know, people need to build, and it's just, it's got to happen kind of over time. But you know, there's like money in it too, you know, like there's a way that people can make money, there's a way that people can, you know, like it can actually be like a profitable thing. You've just kind of got to find the right sort of way to do it. But bro, I was only thinking about K-Dub just the other day. Like me and Roan's actually one of the boys that works here. We were talking about the water crossing at his place, and I was like, dude, I was there. I filmed that, and he was like, no way. Like, what was Kevin Windham like? And I'm like, man, that guy is a G. Like, they don't make him like K-Dub.
Oh, dude, he's the best, man, and like the realest guy too. Like, oh man, I remember like I was you know, my first year pro, like. We were going to Anaheim one for like the press conference or whatever, and he's like, hey Trey, can I get a ride with you down to Anaheim one? And I'm like, what?
Yes,
like,
sir.
Yes, sir. You know, and then, like we like stop and ate it like at TGI Fridays, and you had like a Coke and like pot stickers. Just like, this guy is my hero. He would be like, you know, everyone wore like riding shorts, you know, and he wore like whitey tighties. He'd just be like sitting in his bunk like in his whitey tighties. I'm like, this guy is my hero. Like, that's a real
man right there.
Just like hairy chest, like just had it all going. Like I love it, man. It's so good.
Dude, he got knocked out in Phoenix one year. I want to say it was like 11 or 12, and so then he like couldn't fly. So we drove back from Phoenix to California, and I was with Roger Larson. He was riding for 7 at the time. He was riding for Answer at the time, and Roger was the Answer guy. I'd got on the piss all night and I would miss my flight, super hungover. I called Roger because I knew he was driving back. So anyway, we pick K-Dub up from the hospital and we drive back to California. We get like an hour into the drive, and he's like, "Hey, you like football?" And I was like, "Not really." And he's like, "Well, I'm gonna need your vote." And then he goes to Roger. He's like, "Hey man, I'd really like it if we pulled into Morongo Casino and we watched the St. Louis game." And so, dude, first game of football I ever watched was in Morongo Casino at like a blackjack table with K-Dub watching it on the screen, and like Roger Larson the whole time's like, "Dude, this could go sideways. Like we could be sleeping here tonight." K-Dub's like, "I'm gonna write my name on the side of this casino." I was just like, "Bro, you are the man." And then he went out next weekend, did his thing. I was just like, "You're actually the biggest legend in the world."
Oh, dude, it's like to be like at Geico when he was there for like just 3 years was just like all time.
He wrote the rules, huh?
Oh, for sure. I remember one year he was like at Mardi Gras, like some kind of Saints game, like all week, and then he came out and like qualified first. Like didn't ride at all. Like that was so like I remember we were headed to an autograph signing one time, and he was like, "How many times you ride this week?" And I rode like every day. I rode like Monday a little bit, Tuesday, Wednesday. I did some starts on Friday before I left, and I'm like, "Dude, how many times do you ride?" He's like, "I think I rode once this week." Like, and it was just like blowing my mind that he like rode once, which I mean, there's a lot to learn from that, but dude, it was so cool to like, just there's not a level of like cool like K-Dub. Like I just like, man, I wish I could be that cool.
Oh, that's like the perfect way to describe it. Just like effortless cool, not caring about what anyone else thinks, running his own program and just make it look like butter every time.
Oh, dude, I remember one time at the track, he's like, "Hey man, you ever watched Planet Earth?" And I'm like, "Dude, I didn't know what Planet Earth." He's like, "No." He's like, I'm like, "What is it?" He's like, "Everything you need to know, bro, from pole to pole." And I'm just thinking, this is Planet Earth he's talking about. How did he just make Planet Earth cool? Like, it was awesome. I was just like, big K-Dub fan.
Dude, actually, this is like a good K-Dub cool story. So my first ever national was Parla 2010. Watch you wrap up your championship. Dude, weird weekend, actually, that one. Christophe Pourcel broke his collarbone, tried to fight me at the after party. I was like, "Hey man, I don't know, like if you can fight good or bad, but you've got a broken collarbone," and I just feel like I win. Like I win. Like I don't even know how good you are at this. But anyway, after the race, I went up to K-Dub, and I was like, "Hey man, my dad's just Honda. Like that's it. There's nothing else exists, right?" And so I went up. I don't even have a jersey of my own ever. Like I've got actually a couple people who give me some jerseys, but I'm like not the jersey kind of guy, right? I'm like, they don't need that shit in their life. My dad's like, "Please ask Kevin Windham for a jersey." And I was like, all right, I'll go do it. After the race, he's talking to someone, and I was like, "Hey, sorry, K-Dub, like I know that you've probably given them all out already, but like my dad in Australia is a huge fan. And like, if you have a jersey, like it would mean a lot to him." And he's like, "Sure thing, man. I'll run back to trailer. I'll finish here. I'll run back to trailer, and I'll bring you one." And I was like, "Okay, no worries." And I was like, "All right, fair enough. Like that's pretty much a no." Yeah. So I was like packing my bag. I was in a completely different spot, like packing up all my camera shit. And dude, I'm no kidding. Maybe 45 minutes later, he taps me on the shoulder and hands me a jersey, and he's like, "Hey, who do I sign it to?" And I gave it to my dad, and I was like, "That's actually him right there in one story." Like, it would be so easy for him to just not do that.
Oh, and that's the kind of person he is, like it's kind of hard to get a hold of him on the phone sometimes, but like, I mean, he'll talk to you for forever, and like be like genuinely concerned about you. Like,
yeah.
And I appreciate that, like he's just a really good person, like just in general.
We're excited to announce the launch of our new membership site, gypsytales.com, packed with exclusive content and perks that you won't find anywhere else. This is your chance to become a part of the Gypsy Gang. And as a special bonus, if you sign up to an annual membership, you'll be entered into the draw to win our custom-built TC125. Gypsy Gang.